Hi guys, welcome to Origin. I'm someone who cares a lot about music. I want my future career to involve working with music. And while for the last 6 years I've looked like a stereotypical metalhead, I love all kinds of music. But in the last 10 years, there's been a change in how we perceive popular music today. Now, in the past, this was always true of older generations looking at the music of their time. So it would be perfectly normal if the older generations of today perceived today's music as being worse than the music written during their time. But how normal is it for people my age or younger to feel that way in huge numbers about the music of today? And going ahead, when I use the phrase music of today, I'm referring specifically to the mainstream. To apply that criticism to all music today would be completely ridiculous because there's more music than ever. We couldn't possibly have heard it all. About 2 years ago, I did my university dissertation on how people perceive music today and how people perceived music in the past. And it was very clear that something was different. I mean, the way we listen to music, the way we find music has changed an unbelievable amount in the last 20 years. So it would be easy to think that those attitudes have always existed, but we have easier access to hundreds and thousands of opinions, so we have that clearer picture. But it was clear from my dissertation, it was clear from people talking about it, and there was even a survey analysing the music of today, comparing it to the music of yesterday, saying this one thing, that music today, the mainstream music of today, is worse than the music of the past. But what can we do about it? What can anyone do about it? Well, to start off with, we define the problem. We look at the weaknesses in mainstream music today. The first thing that a lot of mainstream pop songs have in common is this exclusive reliance for the whole song on a 4-chord sequence. There's a number of ones that come up. Here are just a few examples. There are 3 quite big songs that features in. Those are U2, With or Without You, Black Eyed Peas, Where's the Love, and Jessie J, Price Tag. But that's a very common chord sequence, and there are so many songs which simply use that very strict sequence as the entire basis for the song. There's no deviation from it. There's nothing different put in at all, it's just that one sequence over and over again. Another example of a chord sequence like that is this one. A notable example of a song that features that is Emily Sandé's Read All About It. Another thing that comes up quite a lot is that a lot of music which uses electronic sounds is criticised for sounding cheap. Now, let me start off by saying anyone who makes a comment that electronics in music in general shouldn't happen, that, electronic music is inherently worse or cheaper sounding than, music that uses more conventional instruments, those opinions should be disregarded without any further thought, because that's just prejudice. It's as simple as that. The only difference between an electronic sound and a sound produced through either the voice or an instrument or some other non-electronic source, well, the only difference is the source. If electronic sounds sound cheap to you, that's simply because the technology is in its infancy, or we're using the electronic instruments, if you like, that we have wrong. Because we're not very inventive in general in the mainstream with the way we use electronics. We tend to either use them as gimmicks, or we use them to create very similar sounding songs in exactly the same style and at exactly the same tempo. But any sound imaginable can be constructed out of simple sine waves. And so there's an unimaginable untapped potential in electronic music, which certainly in the mainstream isn't really being showcased. The third problem with mainstream music is lyrical content. It barely varies from a couple of very common themes. Now we have to accept that there is nothing we can do about the fact that the most prominent type of song that will be produced is a song, not necessarily a love song, but a song that in some way talks about love or some form of romantic relationship. And the reason why is it's the most powerful, most relatable human emotion there is. But even within that one topic, there's tons of room for variety that's just wasted, because most of the songs released are either descriptions of the person's lover or just descriptions about a breakup. And other songs talk about, well, partying, which is perfect for a club setting. And again, as long as people go clubbing, and let's face it, I do it myself, people are going to be listening to these kind of songs, and people are going to be demanding that these kind of songs be produced. But what I think is the biggest problem with mainstream music at the moment is this rigid adherence to the verse-chorus structure that pop music's always used, but in the past it was a guideline. Your song could differ from it in certain respects. Nowadays, it's like a golden rule. It's like a law. You have to make a song that way, and if it differs at all, it's like you may as well not have written it. I would say well over 90% of all pop songs produced go intro, verse, chorus, middle eight, chorus, end. And each section's always made up of a number of multiples of 4 bars. Could be like 8 bars and 8 bars, and it's always so predictable. So those are the problems as I see it. No doubt you'll have many problems of your own, but once we know what the problems are, we know how to solve them, and that's to literally do anything different. Now let me explain why that's not going to happen anytime soon in the mainstream. There's not going to be any difference. We're going to keep going down this route of rigid formula, 4 chords repeating over and over again, love, partying, etc. Most of these songs are not written by the artists that are singing the songs. They're written by a songwriter that works for a record company. And more people are writing songs now than ever before, and it's easier for those songs to get out there and get recognised. So the competition has never been as intense as it is today. Which means that as a businessman working in this industry, if you wanted to make a profit, you need to turn out songs very quickly, very cheaply, and they need to get results fast. So the first thing you do is you don't take any risks. You go with what you know works, and you don't spend any more time than you need to writing a song. So don't deviate from that formula, because you'll have to think a bit more. You'll have to spend a lot of time thinking about what you're going to do if you're not going to follow the formula. Don't worry about putting in any more than 4 chords, because, well, you've seen it. People buy songs in which there's only 4 chords repeating over the entire song. So it's worked before, so you can do it again, so do that. And love, everyone can relate to that. Everyone loves a good love song. And partying, those kids need something to dance to in those clubs. They need to be reminded why they're there. So if I've been right so far, the reason why this isn't going to change is systemic. It's built in to the way the industry operates today. And the only way it's ever going to change is if the industry itself changes. But we have the ability to do that. Let me give you an example. 7 years ago, an artist by the name of Noah Colina uploaded a video onto YouTube that showed a number of still frames of his face produced each day over the course of 6 years from 2000 to 2006. The artistic point behind the video was to demonstrate the aging process in real time, to see exactly what it was about you that changed over the course of that amount of time. It's an ongoing project, and he updated it last year with the 6 years from 2006 to 2012. Now, he uploaded this video onto YouTube and it got millions of views through no more effort than him simply uploading the video. If you've spent any amount of time on the internet, you're already familiar with this phenomenon. It's called something going viral. This happens with songs too, with probably the most famous example being Psy Gangnam Style. Now, recording equipment, music software is now at the kind of technological level where we can record very professional sounding songs without the need of a record label, without the need of expensive studio equipment. With enough time, patience and skill, I could record something like that in this very room. Now, if millions of people have the ability to do that, then it's only a matter of time before someone working only with the equipment that they have uploads a song that goes viral. And if the person who wrote that song can use that situation to say that we don't need record labels anymore, then something will have started. Well, I don't want to overhype anything. It is at least theoretically possible that that event could spark a revolution bigger than the grunge revolution of the 90s. At that point, will music improve? Probably not initially, but slowly, over the course of the next few years after that, you should see a gradual improvement as people begin to realise you don't need to follow that formula anymore. You don't need to follow what's worked over and over again. You can actually be original and produce a song that gets taken seriously by millions. And that's all possible because it's been done before. Because let's face it, we couldn't have a rosy view of the past if we hadn't heard songs like the kind I'm describing that are completely different to what we constantly hear on a daily basis today, and yet millions of people bought, millions of people listened to on repeat for days. That's what we could have back again. So what do you think? Do you agree with what I said? And if you're a songwriter, would you be prepared to go it alone? To challenge the existing status quo and possibly bring about a revolution? Thank you for watching. Goodbye.